everyone, and welcome to Proton Tech's first social media themed online event. Social Media in Science, how to connect to a global audience. My name is Katie Burgess, and I am the Digital Marketing Manager here at Proton Tech. This event is in collaboration with Dr. Raul Peña, who has kindly helped me organise the event and who will be your host for today. I'm really excited for today's event, and I can't wait to hear from our four talented guest speakers. But just before I hand you over to Raul, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Proton Tech to you all. So Proton Tech is a global biotech company with headquarters in Chicago in the United States. Proton Tech was founded by a group of scientists, including our current CEO, Dr. Jason Lee, in 2001, with the aspiration to be a company for scientists by scientists. So Proton Tech are known for their antibodies, but actually have four main product lines, including antibodies and immunoassays, our humankind range of cytokines and growth factors, chromatec nanobody reagents, and our Proton Tech genomic product ranges, including DNA conjugated antibodies. So before we get started, we've actually got an official hashtag for today's event. So hashtag PTG Social Science. So please use this if you're thinking of posting while we're live. Our Proton Tech X account will be posting live updates from the event as well. I've popped our fantastic speakers' social media handles on the bottom of this screen and encourage you all to follow them and continue the conversation after the event. And if you have any questions for our speakers, please type them in the chat and Raul will read as many out as we can when the speakers have finished their presentations. So now I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Raul Peña, who will be our host for today. So Raul Peña is a senior technician and researcher in cancer and tumour microenvironment at Hospital del Mar Research Institute in Barcelona in Spain. So Raul started the @Research Goes Slowly Instagram profile more than 10 years ago and has been connecting with his audience in more recent years by posting short videos with relatable and funny insights into PhD life in the lab. So now I'd like to hand over to our host, Raul. That's all from me, and over to you, Raul.
Hi, Katy. Thanks you for your kind introduction to the social media and science events that we got today. So I think that we get a amazing panel of speakers. So hope the people can learn a little bit how social media works and learn a little bit more about everything, and they can try to share their science on social media. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank to Proton Tech for hosting the event, also for all the speakers, Ben, Beth, Chloe, and Marie, for accepting our kind invitation to speak today, and for sharing their thoughts and their insights in the social media and science. And especially I want to thank you, Katie, because you work a lot in preparing this seminar, and I think that it will be so interesting for everybody. Okay, so let's go because the times rules here. So we need to adjust to timing. So the first speaker is Rein, Dr. Rein, that is a neuroscientist that worked in Stanford University. So he's pretty much known in social media. Basically, he runs two accounts in TikTok and Instagram that are called Dr.Brain. And he shared amazing videos sharing science, real data, and debunking viral misinformation about science. So if you don't follow him, please give a look for and search for him and follow, because you will learn a lot. Okay, so Ben, it's a great pleasure for us to having you here. So whenever you want, you can start.
All right, thank you so much, Raul. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to try and get my slides shared, and let's see. Okay. What are you seeing now? Does it look like a normal slide?
Yep, looks great, Ben.
Yeah, it looks fine, Ben. Go ahead.
Okay, terrific. All right, so yeah, thank you so much for having me. Raul, thank you for the introduction. Given the short window of speaking here. I want to get right to the point. But before I do, I want to kind of introduce myself a little bit more in the context of social media and just sort of the content I post. As Raul mentioned, I'm a neuroscientist by training. But the content that I post, which I think is relevant because we all probably post kind of different content, is educational in nature. And it focuses on various topics like recent papers that have come out, new image, like methods and experimental design, kind of talking about how science is done, general lessons. Like, and this is actually one of my proudest moments on social media, that I got 6.4 million views on a video about arguably the most boring content or topic in neuroscience, which is the sodium potassium pump. If you know, you know. This is public health messaging related videos. Obviously, we want to get the message out about important new updates and public health measures. And then, as Raul mentioned, debunking misinformation. Of course, there's plenty of misinformation on the internet to be debunked. And so there's just an endless supply of videos to be debunked. And finally, career advice. So I just wanted to introduce this. It'll come back later why I'm sharing this here. But, with a broad scope like this for a talk, about science communication, I have so much to say, so many different ways I could go on the talk. But, I thought about telling like my journey and how I got here and what happened and my tips. But I decided instead to talk about the algorithms and how they work, and share a bit about some analysis that I've done, statistical analysis on the algorithms on TikTok specifically, and how they determine how many views a video gets. I actually thought about renaming my talk Ravioli, Give Me the Formuoli, but I decided to go with a more official talk title. But I mean, even on this slide, you can look around, you can see, this video has 1.2 million views. This one has 49,000. This one has 6.4 million. This one has 59,000. They're all posted on the same platform. They're all on my social media channels. Why is it? Why is there such a huge variance? So I originally did this analysis just kind of for fun, because I was, being a scientist and caring about data and wanting to understand how my videos are being propagated on the internet. I started analyzing like what videos or what variables out of the TikTok metrics can determine how many views a video gets. And I started off by presenting it at a conference, and then I decided to just go ahead and publish it in a scientific journal. So yes, if there's more that you want to learn about anything I talk about here today, you can find it in this paper published last year in the Journal of Neuroscience. And so it's a case study of TikTok's utility as a science communication tool. So let's get right into it. So I wanted to obviously understand views. So I log transformed the number of views because they were ranging from like 2,000 to 7 million, and I wanted them all to be on one nice, neat scale. So I log transformed them. This stands for algorithmically determined video views, but we're just going to cover that up and just say views, because that's really what we're looking at here on the y-axis. And on the x-axis, in this case, in this graph, we're looking at the percent of viewers that like it, not the number, but the percent of people who view the video and decide to like the video. And again, this is on TikTok. And so what you can see here is that there is a statistically significant positive correlation that the more people who like a video that they see, at least again, this is only my videos, the more views the video gets, which suggests that probably the percent of people who like it influences the algorithm's fate that it determines for it. We see the same trend for shares. The more people who share the video, the more views the video gets, but this is a slightly weaker correlation. And then next up, I'm going to show you comments, and I can't see most people, but I guess for the panelists, if you had to guess, thumbs up or thumbs down, do comments go up or comments go down with video views? Yep, I see 2 thumbs up. That's what I predicted. Somehow comments actually are inversely correlated with the number of views the video gets. And the way I interpret this is that, what this is showing is that the more views a video got, the fewer comments it got, as far as the percent of viewers that commented on it. And the way I interpret that is, when your videos are shown to larger and larger and broader audiences, the percent of people who are interested enough to leave a comment drops. And so this is probably why we see a decrease in video performance. Not that the number of comments people leave is hurting your video, but just that there's not, probably comments are not really contributing much to the algorithm's determination, and we're just seeing an artifact of the video's virality. Okay, so then, of course, we care about video audience retention, right? Are people sticking around and watching the whole video? What percent of the video do they watch on average? And we can see here a modest, surprisingly modest positive correlation where the more people watch the video or the more people stay around in the video, the more views the video gets. But it's it's R squared of 0.03. It accounts for 3% of the variability in video views. Really not a robust indicator of video performance, surprisingly. And if we look at the percent of people who watch the entire video, we actually see a non-statistically significant flat line here where apparently, at least with my content, it doesn't matter if people watch the video to completion or not. So this I found very surprising. And I also just want to go back for 1 second and point out that when I pulled this slide up, you might have been surprised at how kind of modest the slope was. And these R squared values of 0.14 and 0.09, indicating that these variables like likes and shares aren't really strong predictors of the virality. I was surprised by that too. And these are the strongest predictors that I found. So the conclusion is that really no individual variable really accounts for that much of the video performance. So as we expected, algorithms are confusing and mysterious. So then what about video properties? Once again, really nothing matters. The number of hashtags that I used didn't make a difference, although there's kind of an error. There's a problem in the data that most of the time I didn't use a hashtag, but you can see whether I used 1, 2, or more than 3, really no difference in the number of views. Whether I used a sound, and when I say sound, I don't mean like background music that I added outside of the app. I mean whether I used a sound in the TikTok app, or if I used an effect in the TikTok app, no difference whether I used no sound or no effect or an effect. And so then I showed you this earlier. I mentioned that it would come back up. So I showed you this because I want you to get a grip of the various topics that I cover, because I also did an analysis to look at which types of videos, which topics do best. And so looking at video views, sorry, there's a lot going on here, and I understand I'm also breezing through this, so I'm happy to go back afterwards. But when we look at video views, it turns out that paper summaries, and this is like, a new paper comes out and I say, hey, this paper just came out. We want to figure out what do they say? What do they find? And I do a quick synopsis of the paper. Those performed by far the best. Also theoretical videos. These are things like, if I took your brain out of your head and stitched it into another person's head, would that person then become you? Like things like that, theoretical, kind of out there videos. Those two topics do the best. And then career and life advice does by far the worst. So I think this is kind of interesting. I can explain the success of paper summaries very simply, that the general public does not have access to scientific literature. And by making that information accessible and interpretable, these videos are filling a very high demand need that otherwise cannot be filled. So it makes sense that those types of videos would do the best. And then lastly, my favorite thing about this, I ran a survey on my Instagram in the stories, and I asked people a bunch of questions like, do you think the information I share is credible? Have you learned anything since you followed me? Do you feel that you understand neuroscience better since you followed me? You feel more connected with science, more trustful of science and scientists? And overwhelmingly, the results were incredibly positive. And most of all, these bottom 3 questions are my favorite, that 91% of people feel more connected with science. 84% of people feel more trustful of science and scientists. That to me is incredibly powerful, because I think if you went to a scientific conference with, traditional academics and you got on stage and you said, we have a very simple intervention that can make 84% of people trust scientists more, I think everyone would be like, well, what is it? What is it? And if you said posting videos on Instagram, I think that you would hear the crowd go, oh, because I don't know, it is sort of I feel like there's a general disbelief that this type of messaging can have a legitimate impact on public sentiment. But this seems to suggest that it can. It's just simple educational videos on Instagram. Who knew? So conclusions of those findings: on TikTok, likes and shares predict virality. Viewer retention surprisingly doesn't matter as much. Hashtags, effects, and sounds also don't matter really at all. People really like paper summaries, and sadly, my advice stinks. Another SpongeBob reference here today. So I don't know where I'm at in terms of time, but I will end there, open it for questions. If anyone's curious, this is a correlation matrix, so you can look at, of the TikTok data, what correlated. So for example, like the video length, as video got longer, the percent of the video that people watched was way down. People stuck around and watched less of the video when it was longer. So you can kind of gather some insights just by looking at this. I'll pause there. Not sure where I am on time. I will add that I do have some unpublished data where I analyzed Instagram as well. Have not published this or presented it anywhere. If you'd like me to advance to the slides, or we can go to Q&A. Totally up to you all.
Maybe it's interesting to know the general conclusions that you get with your Instagram data. No, I think that uh, I work mainly in Instagram, and I have a very few and a small account on TikTok. And what I can say for sure is that what is working for me in Instagram is nothing working at all in TikTok. So maybe it's interesting to know, no? Which is the difference between the platforms, no? If
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
say that.
I think it's interesting. I can just show you the data. It's not that much, and it's
Yeah.
quick. The summary is this. Surprisingly, likes. This is like the exact same graph that I showed on TikTok, but using Instagram data. Likes were not positively correlated with video views. In fact, they were negatively correlated. Again, that doesn't mean that if people like your videos, the algorithm says, no, don't show this to anyone else. Or rather, I think that as you get to broader and broader audiences, engagement naturally drops because you're reaching a less targeted audience. But here's the real kicker. This is like the number one finding on Instagram. Sorry, not this. Comments also stink. This. Shares predict, this is R squared value, 42% of the video performance. This is R squared. So on TikTok, shares were 0.09. It accounted for 9% of the video performance, but on shares, 42%. And that is 3 times greater than the strongest variable that I saw on my TikToks. So evidently shares are immensely powerful for Instagram virality. And also, this is interesting, the number of hashtags seems to modestly climb, the video performance seems to modestly climb as you use more hashtags on Instagram. Again, opposite of what I saw on TikTok, that the number of hashtags I used didn't matter. And then again, it doesn't matter if you use the sound on Instagram.
Okay, nice to know, really. Yeah. In fact, the CEO from Instagram always say, no, that they want to on Instagram that they want to be a platform that connect people. So it makes sense that the sharing is what they connect really people with the others, because when you feel attached to something and you share to your friend, and this is
Yep.
which they are trying to promote at the end with Instagram. Okay, thanks for your talk. I have a couple of questions over here, and I want to share to you. There is one user that I asked that if you think there is a niche for longer form science content more than short videos on Instagram or TikTok, or what do you think about the future of science communication? Will be the people move towards YouTube or something, platforms like these ones, or people will remain to the short video that are highly viral and very easy to eat, no?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think science is better communicated through longer form content. I've said many times that if I could go back, I wish I did long form content instead of short form, because short form necessitates you cutting out important nuance and details that, matter. And so, science is nuanced, science is often confusing and needs detailed explanation. So it would be good if the platforms naturally move toward longer form content. But whether or not that actually happens, I think is really a question of, I don't know, psychology and sociology and culture, because people like bite-sized bits. They like the accessibility of being able to just jump from video to video within a minute or less. I don't see the average human's attention span elongating and people craving long form videos. I think that at least for a couple more years, we'll see the same kind of separation where you have long form videos on places like YouTube, and then maybe people cut little segments from those long form videos and put short form tidbits on like TikTok and Instagram. But I mean, I wish the average person sought out longer form content when it comes to science education.
Okay, it will be great for sure. Okay, I have another question about your content. I wish to know how you select the papers. And in relation to that, if any manner are able to predict which of your videos will become viral just because you choose a specific topic or not,
Oh yeah. I've definitely, I mean, over the years of doing this, I've definitely gathered this like intuition of what are people interested in, what are people not interested in. I think generally people are interested in, short, easy conclusions, right? You don't want to present a paper that's like, well, we found out that oxytocin neurons from the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus project to GABAergic interneurons in the prefrontal cortex, which then inhibit the glutamatergic. Like, nobody wants that, right? That's nonsense to the average person. Obviously that is meaningful to scientists, but I think, what we really want is like something that has a simple, clear, interpretable conclusion, ideally that impacts the average person's life. If you're making a video about a super rare genetic condition that no one's ever heard of, it's going to be less likely to go viral than you're making a video about sleep. Everybody sleeps, everybody knows and understands sleep and enjoys sleep for the most part. So, it's about just kind of, if your goal is virality, and when it comes to science education, virality is really an important thing. In that case, you should be really aiming for whatever's the most kind of catchy and clear and impactful. And that like I said, over the years, I've kind of just developed an intuition for a paper comes out, and I immediately can think of, this is the perfect framing to get the average person to care about this honestly deeply esoteric scientific finding. But if we can frame it in a way that's relatable and get people to feel that it matters to them, that's how science education occurs, at least on social media. Marie, do you have a question?
Okay, thanks for your reply. Yeah, totally agree with you. I think that this intuition is nice, and I think that let's say more general and more feeling you put in your video, usually the people reply better. Just to general, not a specific topics, because a specific topics only works for a few people. If you want to become bigger and go viral, you need to open your topic and your selection of papers or whatever you are doing. Okay.
Right.
Thank you
want it
so
to be
much, Ben,
relatable.
for that's it at the end. You have to connect with
Yeah.
people, and more people you connect, better for your socials, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maria, I
Thank
want
you
to
so
give you an
much.
opportunity to ask your question.
Yeah, I was wondering, did you look at the percentage of people that followed you on both platforms? Like, do you know like the common grounds between like, oh, if people saw you on TikTok, would they follow you on Instagram and vice versa?
I don't have any data for that. And by the way, all the analysis was done based on like the metrics that TikTok provides. Nowadays, I did this 2 years ago. Nowadays they have more metrics, but I don't have. But my general impression is that most people don't want to follow the same creator on multiple platforms because, unless you're like in love with this person, right? Like you love Taylor Swift and you want to follow her on every platform because you want to make sure you see your content. I don't think anyone cares about my content that much. But yeah, I mean, I don't find that anyone, I don't know. I have a reason to believe that. I can't remember what it is, but a couple of years ago, I remember thinking, oh, wow, okay. So these are very distinct populations of people on each account.
Okay, Ben, thanks for your talk. We need to move to the next speaker. Okay, and this time is Beth. Beth is a postdoc working currently in the University of Leeds in UK. Okay, and he collaborates also with the UK Platelet Society, and he runs the Instagram account Bethology, that is a mix of science, inciting about academia, research life advice, mental health advice, and her personal life. So if you want to follow her, she will be happy for sure. And let's listen to what she wants to share with us. Thanks for accepting our invitation, Beth.
Thank you so much for having me. I will get stuck in. Thank you for having me, and I'm really lucky to be speaking alongside some amazing science communicators. So I feel very, very privileged to be doing this. So thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am, introduction to my account and how I started creating content and why I started creating content, my experience using social media as a scientist, the pros and cons of using social media for science, the future of social media in science. We kind of talked a little bit about that already, but kind of what my thoughts are on social media in science. and my advice for getting started if you want to start sharing social media content in relation to science. So I'm Beth, I live in England, if you can't already tell, but I'm actually currently in the US on a research trip. I live in a place called Leeds, which is in the north of England, and I am a postdoc at the University of Leeds. I study platelets, which are these things, and these are small aggregatory cells in the blood that help us to form blood clots during injury. But I'm interested in what goes wrong with these cells in incidences of cardiovascular disease. I live in Leeds with my husband and my cat. Hendrix gets featured on my accounts quite a bit. And in my spare time, I make videos and content about social media, about science and life in academia. So how and why did I start posting on social media? Like many of us, I had a little bit more time on my hands during the COVID-19 pandemic. That was in the middle of my PhD. I kind of felt a little bit isolated. I didn't really have that many science friends. And I also felt like scientists were getting quite a bad rap in the media, and I wanted to kind of show what it's like to be a scientist. And on top of that, I also have tinnitus and hearing loss. And within this period of COVID-19, lots of anxieties and things like that, I noticed spikes in my tinnitus, and I also noticed that I'd had tinnitus for about 10 years. And whilst that seems like a very weird thing to celebrate and acknowledge, I kind of thought, well, this is a weird time. The only way that you can communicate with people right now is virtually. So I decided to create a video about living with tinnitus for 10 years. I also wrote a couple of blog posts on it, and that led me to work with the Royal National Institute of Deafness. And that was really cool because it was working with a renowned organization, sharing tips, tricks, my experience on living with tinnitus, particularly during the pandemic. I was also doing a lot of outreach online, so through STEM ambassadors, and I was engaging with different schools online, doing virtual workshops and things like that. And I really, really enjoyed doing that. And it was great to see young people be engaged with science and want to pursue science in the future. And all of that encompassing kind of led me towards posting a bit more on social media. Which brings us to kind of Bethology today. So the early stages of Bethology were focused around longer form content. This was about 4 years ago. I like writing, so I have a blog. The blog is still active. I don't blog as much as I'd like to. And I spoke about tinnitus. I broke down different science concepts. My research interests revolve around blood and cardiovascular disease. So I have a lot of blogs around that. And then general kind of, the importance of cervical screenings and things like that, and then also updates on my experience as a PhD student in the pandemic. I then used Instagram primarily to share bite-sized chunks of the blog posts. So they look a little bit dated now because I created infographics, and at the time that was primarily what Instagram was. It was kind of photographs in infographics and things like that. So I used Instagram as a tool to kind of share the longer form content. But social media has changed quite a bit, and so has the way that I create content and what my content looks like today. So I kind of moved away from the blog and started creating YouTube videos, generally sharing my experience as a PhD student, and particularly writing my thesis leading up to my viva. I also share a lot of tips and academic advice, and also the transition from being a PhD student to a postdoc. And then I kind of had a slow introduction into making short form content. I was a bit resistant to begin with because it felt very fast paced, and I was used to creating longer form content. And I actually really like creating short form content. I share a variety of different things, so kind of relatable, funny, lab, academic content. I sometimes do outfits of the day and kind of things outside of science to show that, you don't have to be socially awkward to be a scientist. There's quite a big stereotype, but I wanted to break that stereotype. I also share science topics and then some funny things like reviewing passive aggressive lab notes in the lab because why not? And on top of that, I share kind of photo updates, kind of in a blog type setting where I use the caption on Instagram and TikTok to update what's going on about my life and other kind of science communication events. For example, here I had the opportunity to present at a Pint of Science event. And that's kind of what my social media account looks like now. I primarily use Instagram and I'm slowly moving more towards TikTok. And as Ben said previously, the audiences are quite different. So it's trying to navigate that. The algorithms work very differently. So with all that in mind, I wanted to share kind of my personal experience of using social media as a scientist and kind of the things that I've gained and learned from using social media. The main thing for me, if social media died a death tomorrow, I've made some fantastic friends and, you know, that has been amazing. For when I was feeling so isolated, having that sense of connection and meeting people and connecting with fellow scientists and like-minded individuals that all are passionate about science and social media, you know, you can't put a price on that. And I've made genuine connections, of which some of them came to my wedding, which if you said that 4 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, it's a bit weird inviting social media friends to your wedding, but it's been great. And obviously Chloe's on here as well. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Chloe and becoming friends with Chloe, which has been fantastic. I've also learned and developed new skills. Developing and learning skills is a constant practice. I've adapted as social media has changed, and I've tried to improve my communication and storytelling skills and video editing skills and things like that. I co-host a podcast. I'm learning lots of different things that you wouldn't traditionally learn within an academic career. I've also gained so many opportunities. So I've had the pleasure of like working with different brands, but I've also worked with a lot of organizations like Royal National Institute of Deafness, the International Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis. And I also won an award for education content online, which is the Yorkshire Blogger Award, which is kind of in the county of where I'm from, which is really, really cool. And I met lots of people in different industries that are using social media for a variety of different things. And that was incredibly eye-opening. So I've touched on some of the pros, but I just kind of want to give a general pro of using social media for science. It helps you improve and develop communication skills. It provides a creative outlet as well. People don't think science is creative, but I think it is really, but you can use social media as a creative outlet as well. You can build a network not just in your academic or your research discipline. You get to build a network of people outside of that, which is fantastic. It's a way to share your research or work in a different way that can reach much wider audiences that wouldn't necessarily have access to that to begin with. You can inspire and encourage the next generation of scientists. And you can engage people with science that wouldn't ordinarily be engaging with science. And it's a really cool way to keep up to date with cool science. So I follow a lot of science communicators. It's a great way for me to learn so much about different science topics as well. So I think there are so many pros. Obviously, with pros, there are cons, and I'm just going to share a few of them here. I mean, for me personally, using social media has been quite a positive experience, but I do want to touch on some of the cons of using social media for science. You can get caught up in the metrics, and it is great to see the data and the analysis of how videos perform and the different algorithms. But yes, the algorithms are so confusing, and it's hard when you're kind of either chasing followers or views or whatever. It's easy to get caught up with that. You can experience negative comments. I've not really experienced many of these, but I know that it can happen. And it's very easy to compare yourself to other creators and feel a sense of imposter syndrome. You end up spending a lot of time on social media and on your phone, which is probably not a good thing. And it's not always considered work or taken as seriously within the academic realm, something that Ben highlighted earlier, that although there's so many positives, it's not necessarily taken that seriously within academia, and I think it should be. And it can be hard to juggle on top of a full-time job as well. With all that in mind, I thought I'd share some of the thoughts that I had on the future of social media in science. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think there might be a potential rise in longer form content. We discussed earlier that, yeah, you do miss the nuances, particularly when you're talking about a complex science topic and you want to break it down. 60 seconds, 90 seconds is a really short time to do that. So I think that there will be a need. I think there'll always need to be a base of longer form content, but like Ben said, section it out into shorter form content for Instagram and TikTok. There's a growing need for dissemination of science. It has a really positive impact, and it's great to share scientific content and also what it's like to be a scientist to more people. People trust people that are like them, so relatable and easy to understand content is more engaging to a wider audience, and it really brings a need for more diverse content as well. Oh, sorry, my light keeps going off. I'm not moving quick enough. I do apologize. Social media and science communication training should be more widely available to scientists for those that want to pursue science communication. Sorry about that, guys. So then what would my advice be for using social media as a scientist? I would say just start. You kind of need to learn on the go. I'd recommend picking one platform initially. There's a lot to choose from and they all work very differently. There's a lot of similarities, but they all kind of work differently. So to stop you from getting overwhelmed, I'd pick one initially, learn about it, and just start posting on that particular platform. Try out different content styles and see what works for you, see what people are engaging with, what people enjoy. Give credit where credit is due. As a scientist, you should always reference your resources, so definitely do that on social media. Be social. It's social media for a reason. Connect with people, interact, start conversations, connect, and have fun. It's supposed to be fun. And I think if you're not having fun, then maybe take a break. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, Beth. Very interesting talk. Yeah, we learn a lot with it. Okay, let's say a couple of questions from our attendants. I think that several of them asked you, want to know how do you handle social media in your life? I mean, which is your schedule? How many hours? Why did you choose Instagram or TikTok or the other, you know? How to start? I think that the problem, the people are asking how to start and which is the better manner to start on social media.
I think it's hard to say what's better. I think TikTok is probably the most popular app at the moment. I think there's a lot of diverse topics on there, and I think it's a different audience. I'd probably recommend using TikTok. I was a bit too scared to use TikTok. I just used Instagram because that's what I was using initially. But I think if I went back, I'd probably start TikTok instead.
Okay, so you recommend, and regarding this discussion about long and short videos, what do you recommend to start with?
I mean, I think there's a place for both. I mean, it really does depend. I mean, I think jumping straight into breaking down a complex science topic in 90 seconds is quite hard, but if you want the challenge, absolutely go for it. TikTok allows you to do longer videos, so I think that could be a good place to start.
Okay, not bad, not bad. And we have another question about how to deal with the stress and the pressure of consistently coming up with unique and engaging content. Do you feel that pressure?
I think I used to. I think I used to put a lot of pressure on myself, and still do probably. But I think sometimes if it's a bit much, then it's just take a break. Social media is incredibly important, but it's not everything, if that makes sense. Like it's amazing, it's a fantastic tool, but if it's getting to the point where it's stressing you out, I think you can just always take a step back and then come back to it when you're ready.
So I think then it's similar to PhD, that at the end you have to prioritize somehow your mental health,
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
than a little bit. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Beth, for your replies, for your answers. I think we have to move forward to the next speaker. In this case, we need to, well, we have, our next speaker is, sorry, a little bit, I lost that. The next speaker is Chloe. Okay, Chloe is, has got recently her PhD, okay, and move and make like a transformation in a patent lawyer in Washington, okay, and he has also a unique style in her socials. Also, she's used to share many book recommendations, science, alternative careers, also haircuts, also outfits, everything, and has a very huge community, which for sure engage a lot with her. So thanks for coming here and show up and this your presentation, and we are ready to learn from you.
Thank you so much for having me. Give me 1 second to share my screen. All right, we've got this. I'm gonna try. All right, what are you guys seeing right now? Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
We see your presenter mode.
Okay. I'll just present from this because I think that's. Are you able to see this fine? Brilliant. All right. So hello everyone, thank you again for Protein Tech for having me. Really excited about this opportunity. So I'm going to start with just sharing a little bit about me because I mean, that's kind of what I share on social media, right? So back in high school days, I didn't think I liked science. I know that shocks everyone because now you fast forward 10 years and I'm now got a PhD in science. But back in my middle school, high school days, I went to like a small classical school. So we studied a lot of like Latin, history, literature, logic, rhetoric, but there wasn't very much emphasis on science. So by the time I was a senior, I'd taken already all the science classes that were available at my school. And to be frank, I didn't find it that exciting. So when I first got my opportunity to do research in a laboratory, and went on to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, my whole shift of, oh my gosh, science is so much cooler than what you read out of textbooks happened. And then all through undergrad, I found every opportunity to be in the lab as possible. So it kind of made a natural sense then to go for grad school in science. And then a bit about me now is, so after all of that, saying that I love research, I do not work in research anymore. And this time last year, I made the jump into patent law. So I'm a patent law clerk. I've also moved to Washington, D.C. And then my night job, my other career is as a science communicator, primarily on Instagram. But like Beth, I also have a blog. I've been dabbling a bit in TikTok. So why did I start science social media? Similar to Beth, it was right before the pandemic time. When I was first looking into grad school, so this is senior year of undergrad, I was really interested. I love science, but I didn't have a 4.0 in my undergrad GPA. I love science research, spent every single second I could in the lab, but I just didn't resonate with some of the science classes I took, especially the general, general biology, organic chemistry, etc. And so there's always that myth of grad students as being ridiculously smart, getting A's in all their classes. And I was worried because I didn't fit into that mold. So my senior year, I was on Instagram, just for my own personal account. And I started following a lot of science Instagrammers that were doing their PhDs. And at the time, this was 2018, 2019. There weren't many of us around. There was a handful or so. So I followed some of them, and fun fact, later on I became friends with them. But at the time, it was cool getting to see like the day in the life of these scientists, these PhD students, showing that, okay, they might not understand all the nitty gritty of their whole PhD project, right? Or they might be biology students, they don't understand all the physics concepts to do with things. So it was really cool to see, okay, these are people just like me, just like you, that are able to do science in graduate school. So when I got into graduate school myself, I thought, one, it'd be a fun way to connect with the people that had inspired me, but two, to be able to give back a little bit, because to be frank, this was like my final push to apply for grad school, was getting to see all these people like me following their dreams. So I was like, it'd be kind of fun to do that myself. So like I said, why I started connecting with other scientists, sharing life in grad school, and a bit also demystifying science. Like, what is science beyond what we read in textbooks, more than the big discoveries of, the DNA helix? How does it actually function in day-to-day life? And now, because this was about 5 years ago when I started, there's a lot more of us on social media, which is awesome. And my one takeaway, if you take away anything from my talk, is I think every scientist should be involved on social media in one form or another. We can get into that in a few slides. So now, because I'm not at the lab anymore, my content has shifted. A big topic, overarching theme of it is science is for everyone. You don't need to be a PhD scientist in order to love and appreciate science. You don't even need to have an undergrad in science. I think science is for everyone because it's the world around us. And as scientists, all of us on here, I think part of us have a responsibility to destigmatize what science is and take away that separation between that white say scientists are on this, like, what do they call it, white box, they're on some pillar, they're a little community, they're a little bubble, and we have a responsibility to open that up to everyone else. So a few tips, and this is going to sound very similar to Beth, which I'm glad about, because we didn't chat about this ahead of time, so we've got the similar ideas going on here. First and foremost, choose your platform. As you heard from both Ben and Beth, there's a lot of variety between different platforms. So just pick one. I just picked one I was most familiar with and used the most regularly. Instagram. If it's TikTok for you, go for TikTok. Twitter, YouTube, etc. Pick something that you feel like you already have a bit of expertise in. Just if nothing else, the platform you go scrolling on regularly. Two, finding similar content creators who inspire you. Now, obviously, this means that don't copy them, but it's really important to have some sort of inspiration. Like, for example, if you really want to share how to talk about different science topics, look at Ben. If you want to talk about different, life as a postdoc, look at Beth's account. Choose that niche, and also define the goals of what you want from your Instagram account. Third, and probably this is the most important, as Beth said, just rip off the band-aid and start posting. I see so many different Instagram TikToks being like, you need to have a month-long plan. You need to have this laid out, this laid out. It gets so overwhelming and stressful that I think Instagram social media should be a hobby, something you enjoy. And so just post what you enjoy. At the end of the day, you'll get your content or your community based around that. A few do's and don'ts, some from personal experience. Of course, being consistent is great for a lot of the algorithms. I know Ben went into a lot of detail about that, but typically if you're consistent. Now, I know I saw some comments in the chat like, how are you able to balance this with being a full-time, doing other stuff like research? It doesn't mean you need to post every day. Again, I know that there's people saying 3 times a day, 5 times a day. Even stick to like 1 time a week or once every other week. Something like that you're able to stay consistent in, so you keep that community engaged with you. Obviously, checking permissions where you work. If you are a researcher anywhere, just run by whatever platform you're working with. Engaging with other science communicators. Part of this, yes, it might help with your engagement, but I've made some really great friends. I mean, Ben, Beth, I've made some really great friends by being able to engage with these people in these accounts. Using it as a creative outlet and hobby. As soon as you lose the fun in what you're doing, it becomes a chore and not fun. So make sure that you're keeping back to what you enjoy. Being clear about opinions and facts, I can get into that in the next couple slides, and being professional, because at the end of the day, you are representing an extension of yourself, your brand. You want to make sure that you're not sharing a lot of different things. That goes into don't sharing your whole life. I'm sure if some of you check out my Instagram, you'd be like, oh, you share everything. I don't, I promise. I purposely select, what I do and don't. And that's something that everyone should be mindful of too, right? Is that Instagram is just one, it's the highlight reel of your life. But being careful that you're not sharing everything. If you're showing friends, that you've asked them permissions ahead of time, just stuff like that. Sharing confidential information goes back to lab. You don't want to be sharing, the specific antibodies you're working on if it's a new project. Boxing yourself into a niche is another common. It was something I actually had to work on after I left grad school because I was so focused on the science research aspect and grad school aspect that I had to branch out and figure out other things that I wanted to talk about. Another one I do see quite commonly, and I know other science communicators may have different opinions on this. I don't think you should make your personal science major into your science social media, that you should have them kind of separate, because what I've seen some people do is they'll take, whatever their personal posts say, they've had family reunions, blah, 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 and they'll decide they'll just change their handle into a science once they've got all their friends and family following it already. But if you start getting more and more, bigger community, sure, not everyone's going to scroll down to the bottom, but maybe you don't want to show, your 6th grade graduation ceremony that you had a picture of on your social media. And finally, this touches back on something Beth was saying. Don't overextend yourself. If you're not having fun, if you're too busy, it is okay to take a break. And that's something I've dealt with personally, because I think it's, again, so easy to compare ourselves to other people on social media, people that are full-time content creators, especially outside the world of science. And I think science Instagram, science social media works a bit differently because a lot of us have, other jobs that are bringing in our primary income. So this is a very brief overview of if you want to use science social media for disseminating research. I think be clear about your qualifications, because as all of us are scientists are aware of, if you've got background in molecular biology, you might not be as familiar with certain physics concepts or, organic chemistry. So just be clear upfront about what your qualifications are. Another important thing about social media is people are watching for you, not just as much about the information. So having your personality shine through is really important. Choosing topics that you're really interested in, like Ben with neuroscience topics, is really important because again, what you're interested in will shine through what the content you make. Being clear about your goals, and then don't overstate and overgeneralize. We see this all the time in news headlines. They'll say, a glass of wine will help your overall metabolism. Stick away from those things. If you're going to talk about it, talk about the citations, what they actually break down the research. Now, something I want to spend just a little bit of time on, because this is a passion project of mine and something that I try to get through in social media, is using social media for science policy. And this goes back to disseminating to the wider audience why science is important, why we should be funding research, why everyone should understand basic science concepts. And it all goes back to science policy. Helping our policymakers, the Congress people, the senators in your respective countries, understand why science is important, because a lot of them, most of them, are going to have at most, high school science education. Maybe they had to take a science class in college, but you guys are the experts. And again, it's our responsibility to make sure that the senators, the Congress people, the people making those laws understand the science behind them. So social media is a really great way to get people involved with that, even just on a very basic level. Explaining the human element of why they care. You can make different infographics, like I posted this on LinkedIn, making little videos about different science topics and why you think people should vote for them. Including references, of course, extremely important. And it touches back on what Beth was saying, is all of this is an amazing opportunity to practice science communication, to show that scientists are more than these people that go sit in a lab for 12 hours a day, have no social communication skills. You guys, we are the next generation of scientists, and it goes back to our responsibility is to share how cool science is for the rest of the world. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. I've also linked my LinkedIn and my Instagram here.
Thanks for your talk, Chloe. So inspirational, really. You make several changes in your life, from your degrees to open science to patent lawyer. So how does changes affect to your Instagram account? So it's difficult to handle your community feels okay with these changes, reply everything well, no problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say after I left the bench, I had a drop in engagement because everyone was used to me talking about bench research stuff. And that was probably the biggest change, is figuring out how to talk about science in a way that I want to, that's genuine to me, while not focusing on, the bench research aspect of it. And so I think now I've gotten to a bit better of a spot where it's more, if I talk about my grad school days, it's more about what I learned, sharing kind of the experience I went through. But I think that's why I go back to saying don't box yourself into a niche, because I'm speaking from personal experience that you don't want to box yourself into a niche.
Okay, so there is also a question here that some user ask about if they have like a old account of Instagram that has no success and want to change to science communication, no? And she asked about, is it better to create a new account or reuse that one you have, or any advice on that?
I think it depends on what your original account was for. If it was anything to do with what you want to change to, like say if you were talking about grad school, then you decide you want to talk about science research papers, and I think that's a very obvious, like use the same account. But if it's a very, say if you made like a fan account for Harry Potter or something, and then you're switching to science, I just make a new one, because the community is going to be so different that anyone that's following you for whatever that account was before is not going to be interested in the new stuff. And if you're curious about any of that overlap, say if you did build a community of like 10,000 people and you want to switch, I just share that new page on your old one, on your fan page of Harry Potter.
Okay, thank you for the advice. Can I ask if you get a lot of negative comments in general in your
Sorry, say that one more
science
time.
communicator life? If you get a lot of negative comments in your post from the
So
people,
I'd say
how do
the
you
biggest
handle them?
negative, the biggest negative comments I get actually is a scientist shouldn't be outside the lab. And that was something like identity-wise I've struggled with a lot. I even considered changing my Instagram handle for a bit after I left the bench, because am I a scientist anymore if I don't work in active research? And I think part of now my account has shifted into, I think it's so important, scientists going into other areas of the world that aren't the lab bench, because we need to take that expertise that you've learnt, pipetting 12 hours a day, and the knowledge of how to read and scientifically understand important paper concepts and communicate that with people that aren't as familiar with that. So yes, I'd say negative comments I do get, but they'd be mainly directed towards like, you're not a scientist, you're not a scientist anymore, that sort of stuff.
Can
Ben,
I
did
ask
you
if
have a question?
Yeah, I just
yeah,
want to
Kirk,
just
go.
comment on, Chloe's gone through such a unique position of exiting the bench and going into patent law. And I want to first commend you, Chloe, for doing a great job of navigating that reframing of your channel and making it about look at what can happen after a science career. You can pivot and go into something completely different, and that can be a wonderful thing. And I think one, you've done that masterfully, but two, I want to point out that it's brilliant to take that approach, because on science or on social media, really what it always comes down to is providing value to whoever's watching your content. And that could have been a transition where it was like, it could have been all about your career and you could have been teaching about patent law, but you've made it about like providing value to your audience. And I think that's just a good lesson for everyone listening about how to kind of consider what type of content you make.
Thanks, Ben. I can't see the chat, by the way, so I don't know if there's other questions, or after this, I can also do what Ben did and respond to them in the chat.
Okay, yeah, we can go ahead for the next speaker. Thanks for your talk today, and go. Okay, our next speaker is Mario. Mario has like a different path, like different to all of us, because Mario is still not a doctor. No worries on that. It's not important to be a doctor at all, in my opinion. And also, she's doing her research on a biotech, what is quite uncommon for us, that we are always aware this discussion about academia, private companies, biotech, everything, no? If you want to follow her, he runs a amazing Instagram account, that is Lab Skills Academy. It's so funny, has to be said. I love her since many time, because she makes very funny jokes, but also combine it with very inspirational posts, advice, lab protocols, many useful videos, anything. It looks like everything, American handle everything put in the same account, and everybody loves it. So congratulations to having that, because I used to give always the same advice: is just focus on a topic first and follow your topic, and then when you are a little bit famous, you can change a little bit, but you do it from the very beginning. So I think you are very special account for me. Okay, so all the audience is for you. You can start whenever, and we are ready to learn about you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and thank you, Protein Tech, for having me. It's such an honor just to talk about my journey, I guess. So can you guys see my slides just to double check?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, everything fine.
Yeah. So everyone, I'm Mary Jo, but on social media I go by Mary. The reason why is for my company reasons. I'm supposed to keep my company in private, so I couldn't use my full name, so people don't find me on LinkedIn and just see my company. So that was the reason. But now with their permission, I'm able to use my full name. So I'm Mary Jo, and I just wanted to talk about my career path on how I got to where I am today. So I have a master's, I don't have a PhD, and a lot of people might seem like, oh, you need a PhD to get to where you are. But that's why I created my page, because I wanted to show people that you don't need a PhD and you could be in industry. And there's a path other than academia to do the science and do the research and work and be able to also have like a nice day-to-day life, like a nice life, and be able to live your life. So I started my path to biotech as a child. I loved biology. I thought I was going to be a dermatologist. It was everything I ever wanted. High school, I took all the biology, AP, chemistry, just to go into med school. University, I did my bachelor's in biology. I was a pre-med student, and then halfway through, I'm like, I don't want to go into pre-med. That's not for me. And so I was looking around and seeing what really interests me. And one of my interests was stem cells, iPSCs, and regenerative medicine. That was something I was so passionate about. And it's something like I just wanted to dive into. So from looking onto that, I'm like, okay, like how can I get to there? Like work with iPSC stem cells. And I saw that if you go down like the biotech, molecular biology, immunology route, you'll eventually get to there. So that's how I found biotech from my research, from like breaking it down, deep diving. I went to Northeastern, did my master's in molecular biotechnology after my bachelor's. And through that process, I just struggled trying to figure out what I wanted to do after not choosing pre-med. And then I also found the struggles of trying to navigate leaving my master's, going into industry. And I felt like there weren't people out there to help me out. I had to figure everything on my own. I had to like go and talk to like older people, network with older people when I was like barely 20. And it was like so nerve-wracking. So I just felt like I was alone trying to navigate through that all. And I'm like, if I needed help doing it, I'm sure someone else wants that help as well. So that's how sort of I thought about my social media and how I created my page, because I wanted to help bridge the gap between biotech and the unknown. If you're in school or academia, sometimes these options you would not know of unless you're on Instagram. So I thought having that exposure to people would be really helpful. I created my page because I wanted to help people understand what's it like. How is it? Like what's out there? Like the different options that you could take. And I just felt if I was able to connect with at least one person and see like, oh, there's something other than just going to med school or pursuing a PhD because that's the norm, then I guess I did my job with my social media accounts. So that was like my goal and why I started. I've been on social media maybe a year and a half, and I've grown my Instagram to 140K, 46,000 followers. It's crazy to say. I'm so shy about it. I don't tell a lot of people about my social media just because like I'm super shy. But I'm so grateful for how much I've grown and like how I'm just speechless. So it's super amazing. And I'm super grateful to be able to relate with as many people as I can. So the way it started, it's my aha moment, or the why of why I wanted to start it. I just realized that I could give that message and give people another opportunity on how to actually build a career for themselves. So I'm like, if I share my experience, I share my life, I just share what I go through, maybe that will help someone else. I just needed to start when I started off my Instagram page, I had like pictures and I didn't even have my face on there just because I was shy. And I'm like, I don't want like my coworker or someone to see me and be like, oh, look at what she's doing, like posting and like sort of make fun of you. But then after that, I just posted one video of my face, like I was doing something funny in the lab, and then it just got a lot of hits. And I'm like, wait a minute, like if I continue doing this, people will relate to that more. So that's how I started showing my face more often. But as everyone, I echo everyone what they said. You start off, you don't know what you want, and then throughout the process you learn of what sticks with you, what you're comfortable doing, and what you're comfortable sharing. So that's what I did. I started off with just news, pictures, things. I didn't have like a specific niche, and then I dived into, I'm like, oh, I'll help people how to get a job in biotech. I'll talk about biotech. And then I started showing more of my face and talking more and giving tips and tricks. So there's a room for transition, and give yourself a chance to like actually know what you want. Because once you jump in and you start, that's where you learn. You don't have to learn ahead of time. You have to learn throughout the process and keep growing throughout the process, because if you don't try, you'll never know. So you could try it out. And then, as I said, finding my voice. I don't know. I just think things are super funny, and I feel like how I pick my content is based on my actual day-to-day life. Like the memes that I put out, they actually happen in the lab with me, and I'm like, that would be a great content. Let me just do it again, but now in front of a camera, and just like put a caption on there, and people will like sort of relate to it. So everything I post is actually things that I go through, and actually things that I wish I knew, and actually like, and all the memes is just like what me and my coworkers or my lab mates, we talk about, we laugh about. So I literally live my Instagram. Like everything I do, I just redo it and post it online, which I think I'm very fortunate to have, just because it's just fun. So it takes a while to find your voice. It took me maybe a couple of months to like realize it, and then I just figured out what I wanted. As I said, my content, I do funny memes. This is me struggling to open the freezer. I do day in the life vlogs where I walk you through my day from the morning till the evening. And then this is me and my mom. Also, it's like science really, like as a scientist, how you can relate, but also outside of the lab. Some other things, I also post job posts out there, like what are biotech companies hiring right now, because I want to help as many people as I can to get jobs in biotech, and also cell culture tips. So as Raul said, I have a little bit of everything just because I enjoy it so much, and it's just a great hobby of mine. Challenges that I have or you might face when you're doing social media, as everyone else, and I'm just gonna echo, so bear with me. Time management, it is time consuming for me. I do put a lot of thought into it. I don't know how to manage my time, so I leave things last minute. So don't be me. Maybe schedule like no sort of an idea of what you want to do. I edit day of and post day of. I don't recommend that. Just because I do have a 9-to-5 job, and I am on a like on another committee, and I have my social media, so it's a lot of things to juggle. But it's, if you enjoy it, I'm sure like you'll just have a great time. Imposter syndrome. Every time I post, I'm like, is anyone gonna care, or is anyone gonna like this, or who am I to like do this and do that? Imposter syndrome is real, and it's something I think I'm working on and trying to like get over it, but it's still with me, and I'm sure a lot of people, imposter syndrome is the reason why you wouldn't even start, because you're like, who am I to like talk about it? But if you're talking about your career or your path or your journey, at least one person is gonna relate, and for me that's what matters. But also with the like over the years, the positive feedback just helped me keep on going and helped me just want to do this more often. And building a community, meeting a lot of you, DMing you guys, like talking to everyone and meeting new friends and being able to talk in this panel. This is all because of the social media, and it's just amazing to have. And it just shows you like there are so many different scientists out there, like Chloe, Ben, And all of you, like, you show something so unique that I'm in awe every time you guys post, because I'm like, I could have, like, even though I post, I'm like, I could have never thought about that. And the way you put it and the way you learn so much, and you have a community where it's just full of engagement, and it fuels your passion for science, because you truly, you're like, I'm excited to be a part of that community. Tips, start small. Don't overwork yourself. Consistency matters and not perfection. You, like, if you scroll down to my Instagram, I'm sure most of you, like, can relate. The editing might have been so bad. Like, my sister now, she's like, oh my gosh, your editing's way better. Like, you look like an actual TikToker. I'm like, she's like 19, so she's young. She's always on TikTok. So I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment, even though you meant to shade me. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, just start. You'll figure it out. You'll figure how to edit. You'll figure out the tools. As long as you start, if you jump in, dive deep, you're gonna swim. So do that. Try it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't be hung up on the perfection of things. Be authentic. We all show our personalities online. And if you're not truly yourself, people are gonna know. So people resonate with who you are and your journey. So the more you show your authenticity and who you are and your personality, the more people would want to follow you and would want to be a part of your journey. And time management, I told you, I'm really bad at it, but I think if you at least have like 2 idea contents a week, and then from there expand, that's a great way to start. Just maintain consistency is key. Don't think about perfection, think about consistency, but also add value. Like, always think about who the audience you want to talk to, and think about what kind of value I want to offer them. Because if you offer them value, they would want to follow you, and they would want to follow up with you and be a part of your journey. So it's not about you, it's more about what kind of value you can give them for them to be part of your journey. That's how I think about it. So yeah, and just I don't know that, but embrace the science. Just remember, each and every one of you has a unique story to tell. Your voice really matters. So whether you're breaking down a research paper, talking about your life, being an intern and talking about how an intern is like, it's just, everything is important. Like, together we can create like more scientifically informed and engaged world. Like, the amount of things we're bringing out there, people, like, back in the day, 10 years ago, people don't have that information. So we, like, you guys will actually be doing a change, and we'll be actually giving that information and building the gap in science. So if you want a reason to start, maybe this is it. But yeah, that's about me. Thank you for your time. I know I was pretty short, but that's just me.
Amazing journey, Mario. Congratulations, because as you say, you are very young, you are very shy. Probably some of us are also very shy at the beginning. I think that all of us started in a different way to that we are running on our accounts right now. Probably because Instagram forced us to make videos. And videos themselves are just engaging if you show up your face. And this is true. Wherever you don't have a people in the video, you don't engage with that. And huge congratulations, you achieved a very good account. So funny. I enjoy it a lot. Okay, I have several questions, and people have also several questions, but I want to mention once the first, because I think it's quite interesting from our point of view. I think that the official faculty and university social managers are like very calm and make like serious content, very official contents. If you will have to run one of these big accounts of, imagine, MIT, University, Stanford, wherever, what would you change the first?
I would bring more of like the students out there, and like try to build up that community of more showing the people who attend MIT's faces, and sort of talk about, I'd like ask them like, oh, what's one thing you guys all relate to, and then make content on that. Because I think the #1 content that I've seen on my platforms, and maybe you guys have seen, are like the relatable ones get shared more, get likes more, get views more. So the more relatable your content is, the more you're gonna just blow up. So I think I'll look more onto relatable things, whether it's you're an engineering school, nursing school, pharmacy school, business, whatever it is, I'll go and pick the relatable ideas from each and every group and then just post that online.
Okay, nice recommendation. Another issue is that you, at the end, you mentioned that you work in a biotech, like they have like high problems with privacy, data sharing projects, wherever you can imagine. How do you handle it with your bosses, with your supervisor?
Yeah, so my
Did
boss
you
does not.
allow?
My boss does not know about my Instagram, but our HR, the HR company does know about it. She's been very supportive of my account. But how I handle it, as I mentioned at the start, I didn't use my full name for a very long time. I didn't even say my name. I would only go by lab skills. I never mentioned the company that I work for. And I don't talk about the work that I actually do. I just give like general ideas of how a day-to-day life can be, or like general culturing tips. I don't go in specifics of like the cell types or what I work on. And that's really helped me out, because the more general you are, the better it is, because you won't get in trouble. So, yeah.
Okay, nice. I have another question. It's like how do you measure the success of your account? It's not just numbers. It's need to be something else, no? How do you feel with yourself with that
Yeah.
success?
Yeah, for me, the more relatable content I put out there, and I see people like tagging friends like, this is us, this is me and you, or oh my gosh, this is so us. I think that's where I measure my success, because like I'm putting out this relatable same image of other people out there, and that way they don't feel alone, that we're not crazy, that this is what we do in the lab, other people do that as well. That's what I see, and I'm like, okay, my gut feeling was right on this video, and like, okay, I should keep going and just continue on with my gut feeling. So that's how I measure it.
Okay, perfect. It's so relatable. I think that everybody can go to the streets and say hi to you, and you sure that reply to him and give a hug. Okay, thank you so much. I have two advice to you. First, you say that don't be like me, but it's not real. You make a really great account and really great content, so never say that, please. And the other thing is that most of the people wants to show your mom more in your videos because she's so funny also. You know, so
Yeah.
tell her to open another account.
I will for sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Marie. Thank you so much
Thank
to all,
you.
really. Ben, Chloe, Beth, all of you make fantastic jobs in social media. All of you run very successful accounts. More of the people relate a lot of with your work, with your daily videos, with your science communications. So you are so inspiring for all of these people that join to our seminar. So thank you so much. So grateful for having you here, and keep in touch. Okay, Katie.
Hi, I'm just going to share my screen. We've got just one last slide just for you all, just as like a thank you for joining. There we go. I believe you can all see that. So thanks for everyone for all your great questions. We're coming to the end of the event now. And I just wanted to make you all aware that as a little thank you for joining the event today, we're actually offering, Protein Tech are offering all attendees the opportunity to request a free multi-rab recombinant secondary antibody. You can either scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, or don't worry if you don't catch it, you'll receive a follow-up email later this week. And that follow-up email will include the recording of today's event. It'll include the Instagram handles of all our great speakers today. So you can go ahead and follow them and reach out in your own way via DMs or whatever that might be. And then there'll also be a link to request this free sample for those that would like it. Anyone who would like a certificate of attendance, you can also reply to the follow-up email that we'll send out, and we can get a personalized certificate of attendance sent out to you as well. And with that actually brings us to the end of the event today. So I'd like to say a really big thank you to all our guest speakers and our host Raul. We hope the event's been useful for you all and inspired you to take full advantage of the power of social media. Please give everyone a follow, support their content, like their videos, comment, be nice. And you can also follow Protein Tech as well, because we post all our upcoming webinars and hopefully some more events similar to this. They'll all be posted on our social media accounts. So thank you, everyone, and I'd like to wish you all a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining.